I'm going to continue and introduce one of our state partners, and that is Rich Batten. He's the grant administrator for Colorado Promoting Responsible Fatherhood Initiative.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you all for joining us today as we celebrate the strength and resiliency of domestic violence survivors. As the administrator of a statewide initiative to promote responsible fatherhood, I've seen the impact that a nurturing father can have in the life of his children and partner. But I've also witnessed the pain and affliction that can and does haunt the souls of women and children who live in fear of their partners and fathers. When I think of today's theme, A Walk in Her Shoes, I'm reminded of a line from one of the best-known poems of all time. The line begins this way: "Yea, though I walk," you may know it, say it with me, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death." Every survivor of domestic violence has walked in this shadow. Unfortunately, far too many have been lost in the darkness. In 2007, 49 people died as a result of domestic violence in Colorado. According to Project Safeguard report, 19 children were killed during an incident of domestic violence from 2000 to 2007. I don't need to tell you that children who witness domestic violence can suffer severe emotional and developmental difficulties. No one should ever be forced into the valley of the shadow of death by another person, let alone by a person who should be a source of love, support, nurturance, and strength. Being an involved father means ensuring the safety of one's family. Working with fathers means ensuring that the children and partners of the men we serve are never knowingly put at risk. All programs funded by our statewide initiative are required to form a partnership with domestic violence programs in their communities in order to help keep the family unit safe, including mom. The promise of that famous poem is that even if one walks to the edge of death, there is a presence to comfort and guide. "Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I will" what? Fear no evil. Why? For thou art with me. The author must most likely have a supernatural presence in mind. However, my faith tells me that it is not enough to pray or to hope that someone else will come alongside, but that I myself am called to comfort and protect those who walk in the shadow of death. When it comes to instances of domestic violence, women have been quick to rise to the call to come alongside. Men, on the other hand, have far too many reasons have not. Most, if not all of us here today would agree that one of the keys to ending domestic violence is getting men involved in the discussion. Over the last few years, more and more men have committed themselves to this cause. A recent study by the Family Violence Prevention Fund found that 68% of U.S. fathers have talked to their sons about the importance of healthy, violence-free relationships. 63% had talked to their daughters, and 55% of the men surveyed have talked to other boys who are not their sons. This is encouraging news, but we need to do more. We can do more. Only by making a commitment to do no harm and educate young men on the importance of family safety can men help end the cycle of violence. Today, I'm excited to announce the launch of the Colorado Men Against Domestic Violence campaign. This campaign is asking Colorado men to sign a pledge of declaration that they will stand against domestic violence. By signing the pledge, men declare that they are committing themselves to never use or justify the use of emotional, sexual, physical, or economic abuse against an intimate partner. That by example and by leadership, they will teach that strength and manhood are not defined by violence or domination, that they will speak out even when it is not comfortable, when it is more comfortable to be silent, and will join with other men across differences to speak with one voice, saying no more. And finally, they will honor the leadership of the many women that have fought tirelessly on this issue and join them in solidarity, firmly committed to equality. Men can sign this pledge online at www.coloradodads.com. Hard copies are available off to the side here at this rally and at social service agencies and organizations across the state. Through Colorado Men Against Domestic Violence, we seek to build a community of men who no longer tolerate violence. by developing educational programs and community outreach plan to educate organizations and men on the importance of male involvement in domestic violence prevention, educating young men and challenging traditional ideas of masculinity so that they know that being a real man means kindness and respectful behavior toward women, and acting as a resource and referral source for local programs that seek to encourage men to take a stand against domestic violence in their own communities, such as that begun by Safe House Denver. We've done an excellent job with this and other agencies across the state. Right now, educational resources and links to agencies working to end the cycle of violence is available on the Colorado Dads website. Colorado Men Against Domestic Violence is an important component of the Be There for Your Kids Responsible Fatherhood Public Information Campaign. Responsible fatherhood, family safety, and domestic violence prevention go hand in hand. Through increased awareness and education, we can truly build a culture of men and women together who are fundamentally against all forms of domestic violence. However, for this to become a reality, we need to recognize, acknowledge, and confront what Elie Wiesel called the perils of indifference. In his 1999 Nobel Peace Prize acceptance speech, Wiesel said, "Indifference means no difference, a strange and unnatural state in which the lines blur between light and darkness, dusk and dawn, crime and punishment, cruelty and compassion, good and evil." Sounds to me like a possible description of the valley of the shadow of death. Wiesel acknowledged indifference can be tempting. More than that, seductive. It's so much easier to look the other way from victims. It's so much easier to avoid such rude interruptions to our work, our dreams, our hopes. It is, after all, he said, awkward and troublesome to be involved in another person's pain and despair. He said that their only consolation in the concentration camps was that they believed that the camps were closely guarded secrets, that the leaders of the free world did not know what was going on behind those black gates and barbed wires. Because if the world knew, surely those leaders would have moved heaven and earth to intervene. They would have spoken out with great outrage and conviction. They would have at least bombed the railways leading to the camps, just the railways, just once. Unfortunately, the leaders of the free world practiced a measured indifference for far too long. Today's theme of A Walk in Her Shoes is a call that we can no longer stand on the hilltop absorbing the sun while our sisters walk through the valley of the shadow of death. No, we need to walk before, beside, and behind, doing everything we possibly can to confront domestic violence in nonviolent ways. Indifference means no difference. It means the violence will continue and likely increase. Men, we can no longer be indifferent to domestic violence. We dare not ignore the faces behind the statistics. We dare not live in comfortable indifference. We dare to draw near to you, the survivors of domestic violence, and one another in a common pledge and mission to ensure a safe, violence-free existence in our home and communities. The fact that fathers are increasingly talking to their children about healthy, violence-free relationship is encouraging, but our male voices and conversations need to be heard not only behind the doors of our home, but also in the streets of our neighborhoods. Today, we call men and communities across Colorado to stand up and step out against domestic violence. Today, we visually demonstrate that by our presence at this rally, by donating shoes, and by signing a pledge. Throughout this year, I and others like me promise to do our part to enlist, educate, and encourage men across this state to walk in your shoes. Thank you.